the red line here, which is DD2. All water that falls outside of that drains to another district or drains to a natural creek and is not benefited by DD2. The green boundary that's shown here is the existing assessment boundary. As you can see, for the most part, that orange boundary and that green boundary are in generally the same place. The green boundary is outside, showing full parcels that drain into DD2. Those parcels that receive some benefit fall within that green boundary. We have highlighted here a handful of areas along the boundaries in purple. This purple hatching is the annexation areas we're recommending. Those are areas that drain in, either shed surface and or tile water to DD2 directly or to one of the several facilities that drains to DD2. All of the lands we're proposing to annex today fall pretty far out from the ditch, so their benefits from the ditch are going to be fairly small, or they're down here at the outlet, and again, because they're not using very much of that ditch, which we'll talk about during reclass, their benefit is also very small. I'll just kind of flip through these districts here. So DD2, just to kind of give the bearings, is here. The next one is DD15. We'll talk about that here in a second, but DD15 lies up here in section 26, 23. I'm going to back up. DD2, we're recommending annexation of about 300 acres total. So it's a fairly large area for most annexations, but because of the size of this district, it's fairly minimal in the grand scheme of things. DD15 again lies up here in the north side of the ditch. Let's see, Highway 2. Remind me of the highway there that runs through town.
105.
105, right? Oh, right there. County Road 105 is right here. So DD15 lies north of Highway 105, north of the ditch. Again, same thing. Orange boundary is land that sheds water either to the tile, or this will be a separate topic here. This ditch that was dug privately, we are recommending be taken over as part of DD15 facilities. It was dug to relieve the tile. Everything on this map here in orange sheds to either that ditch or to that tile. The green area is the benefited area, originally set up to deal with just the tile here at the northeast corner. This got quite a bit more annexation. Everything in purple. We're recommending a total annexation for DD15 of about 670 acres. Next one should be DD16. DD16 lies in the west end of DD2. Over here, sections 19 and 30, they drain to this north. That's the lateral of DD2. Drains this area up here in the northwest corner, excuse me. Again, same thing. Orange boundary represents surface or tile drainage to that tile main, with the purple boundaries representing the areas that do benefit but are not currently assessed. DD16, we're recommending annexation of about 44 acres. DD54, this lies right along the interstate, contains a large portion of the casino area, the development around the casino. Again, same thing. Orange boundary represents the surface and tile watershed to that line. The purple are the areas that are not currently assessed. Again, very small in this one, an acre or two up here, a few acres down here around the casino. Total acres. Yeah.
Back there down to on the lower right-hand corner, we're developing that area, and we're putting in a new 42-inch storm sewer that's gonna take all that water, and that part of that on the northeast side of Wheelerwood Road. All that water is gonna go through a storm sewer now down to the,
That's this area right here. Oop,
Yep.
yes, sir.
right in here. Okay. Yes. So
It's
Jackie
still
did
gonna
send
be,
us. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it still should be assessed to DD2, you know what I mean, or whatever, but it's gonna
Yes.
be,
It's actually gonna take that entire area
yeah,
that's being developed.
Okay, this whole piece here.
right, everything on the northeast side of Wheelerwood. For
Okay.
the inter-
Yes, and Jackie had sent us that map, and we were just discussing that this morning. In DD 54, we can talk about this more when we get to the reclass portion, but with DD 54, their assessments would be cut down quite well.
Is that,
We'd have to look a little bit more closely at it. We can do that if we do the continuance for sure.
Okay,
The surface water would still theoretically go to DD 54, but they're taking the vast majority of their water out through that new tile. So their
Right.
assessments would either be very low. We could probably ignore annexation of this piece here and make the assessment on this remaining chunk very small. We have a few options there.
That could be an issue.
That being said, with the higher developed surface area in DD2, it probably would be assessed a little bit more, like the casino, I believe. Jacob, the factor we used on the casino was a little over 2.
Or put a building over where
that
the
would
drain
change the
is.
assessment at the time.
Yeah.
So it would change it on the ditch a little bit. So, as I said, there'd be some adjustments on both sides. 54 would be lower, DD2 would be slightly higher. So we can discuss that more as we get into the reclass stuff here in a little bit.
Okay.
And that would be done more as a recommendation to the board, and the board can make the adjustment they feel is most appropriate at that point. So we'll recommend a factor and a change in the assessments, and then you guys can make that adjustment pretty easily here during the hearing. 13 acres of annexation currently. Again, that little piece there by Wheeler Road would be open for discussion. DD 64. This was an interesting district. This lies in the western part of the DD2 watershed, right on the highway. I believe this one was actually set up as a highway drainage district. This is the first time I've ever seen that terminology used, but it was built to drain primarily the roadway. And so the assessment area was very small because they're just trying to get across to get to those roads. Those lands do connect into those tile. They do use those tile. They should be assessed to help keep them functioning. So it is a little bit larger annexation relative to the drainage area on this one again. Recommending 86 acres of annexation for this one. That is it for annexation within the DD2 watershed. Are there any questions on these at this point, other than the 54 question?
I have most everybody muted right now, so I don't know if you wanted to.
You could, you know,
Yeah, is there? Go ahead,
I didn't-
Joe.
I
Is there
didn't hear
anybody public that has any questions or concerns with John's report? We'll try to get to you one at a time here. It's a little tricky, but if you do, go ahead and speak up.
So if you are on the phone right now and you want to say something, please do *6 to unmute yourself. If you're on the computer, just go ahead and unmute from there. Oh, and please state your name.
Hello.
Hello, who's this?
This is Beth Bauer. I'm
Okay.
in Kansas City. Beth Bauer, yes, Bower. And I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, and we have parcels in DD2, and it's really, I think, only, and I may be premature, involves the, I think, reclassification piece. But since we're just starting this, and I know there was some discussion about postponing taking any actual action on these proposals today, I wanted to present a request or a motion, or however it is I need to present that to the supervisors, to also continue the time limit to file any objections to whatever date the hearing is continued to, since we really haven't, or I haven't, and my siblings haven't had really much an opportunity to review anything until today.
Let me answer Beth's question. This is Jim Hudson, drainage
Up,
attorney.
Jim.
Oh, that dumb microphone gets under my shirt collar. Is this better?
Yes.
Yes,
Let me answer her question. I kind of wanted to precede John's report, but he takes off and leaves me in the dirt all the time. That's all right. Beth, the answer is the notice that you received gives you 20 days from the at or before the hearing to file a written objection. If the hearing is continued, you have until the continued date, or if they keep continuing it for any reason. So yes, what you're asking for is part of the process. You'll be able to file an objection up until the point in time that the board makes a decision. And you need to do so in writing. You may mail that to the auditor, or you may email it to the auditor. Those forms are appropriate because we need a written record of it to make it part of the record for this annexation procedure. Is that clear?
yes, Jim, thank you very much. And so what I'm taking away from it is that, yes, I'll be able to file an objection following the meeting today, if I choose to do so.
Sure, that's up to you. You can also file a written statement in support of it. So the board is better able to make a decision if they know you're for or against it. Now,
Thank you, I appreciate
in an annexation, voice your concerns, because if the board decides different than you think, you can appeal that decision to district court in Worth County. If they agree with you, you don't need to appeal.
Yes,
So
I
we encourage written objections, and you'll have plenty of time to do so.
thank you. Thank you very much. That alleviates my concern.
Okay, good.
All right, sounds good. Is there anything else, Beth, or you're all covered?
Yeah, like I said, we're not in the annexation piece, but I just wanted to make sure I kind of chimed in at the beginning in case anybody else had a similar question about the timing issue.
It will
Okay.
apply to every single hearing we have today,
Thank you, Jim.
be it annexation, acquisition of right-of-way, or reclassification. Every hearing has notice, published and mailed. Every hearing will state in the notice to you landowners that you must file an objection in writing at or before the time for hearing. At the time of hearing means to me that all throughout the hearing, before they close the hearing and make a final decision, you can file a written objection. So I wanted to just briefly state before we move forward, we're kind of finished with annexation, but I want to explain why we annex. Most drainage districts are smaller than they should be. Most drainage districts have water coming in from outside the existing district boundary. When the engineer finds that and determines that, he advises the Board of Supervisors, and they order him to do an annexation report, which the engineer has done. The engineer has identified land outside the district, which benefits from district facilities. Whenever we discover that, that is the only test to annex. If your surface water comes in, or if you have tile water coming in, and you use or you benefit from the district facilities, or you have a potential benefit from district facilities, your land can be annexed. And it should be, because then you will begin to pay your fair share of assessments for that facility. That's the basic basis for annexation. And I guess maybe I should just follow up. We're going to do right-of-way acquisition. Whenever the drainage district determines that they need additional land for their facilities, they can, the auditor appoints an engineer, 2 disinterested appraisers, and they make a report. The report is filed with the auditor, presented to the board, and that appraisers recommend how much land and where. Then we have a hearing like we do today. The drainage district will pay full fair market value for the land, and by doing so, maybe if we go in and make repairs or do things in the future, we won't trample your crop. But whatever crop you have that's within the right of way of a ditch, you get the beneficial use of it. But if we trample your crop and it's in our right of way, then you don't get paid damages for it. Same thing if you went and you grew sweet corn in a road ditch. The county could come by and spray your sweet corn. They wouldn't pay any damages because you're using their exclusive right of way. So I don't want to go into any greater detail on right of way. I think most people understand that, because from time to time people have had roadway taken for right of way. The last kind of a hearing we'll have today is reclassification. When drainage districts are started, there is an assessment schedule made up for every parcel in the district to pay its fair share, its relative fair share of the assessments. The only funding that drainage districts has comes from the landowners. The landowners pay for everything. Many schedules have gotten outdated and are what's called inequitable. So that alone requires reclassification. Reclassification is required when there is an improvement or an annexation or a brand new district. So there's a bunch of annexation going on, and so it's necessary to revise the annexation schedule. That is done by the board appointing 3 commissioners, the engineer, 2 disinterested landowners, which means people that own land in Worth County, but no land in these districts. That commission makes a report. They are charged with finding the parcel in each district with the highest need for drainage, the parcel with the lowest need for drainage, and they assign relative benefits from every parcel in the district. If you're in the district, it's assumed, and it's not rebuttable, that you do receive a benefit. Sometimes your benefit can be very small. I always tell people to keep in mind the board has the ability to adjust the reports today up or down, but there's a certain amount of money that needs to be collected from each of these districts. And it's kind of like a water balloon. There's so much water in the balloon, and an individual landowner could get his assessment reduced, but that means that the other landowners have to pay for his reduction. It's kind of like pushing your finger on the edge of a water balloon. The water won't go outside the balloon, but it'll go somewhere else. So it's difficult for the board to make big adjustments. in general, I think it's probably, these reports are kind of hitting the board for the first time too. So I'm waiting for John Rosengren's head to nod with me to agree. So it's difficult for the board to make decisions today too. So we can continue hearings from time to time for whatever reason. And if it's just merely to give the landowners time to study the reports and the board time to study reports, you know, when you study those, if you have any questions whatsoever for John or Jacob, or if you have any questions for me, my contact information isn't there, but you can do so through Jackie, or you can contact the supervisors, and we'll get your questions answered, so you have a little bit more of an informed decision. One thing I'm going to ask is, Jackie, do you know if there's been an interest rate set for any of these districts?
No,
Do you not know, or do you think there hasn't been set?
there has not been.
Well, we could fix that today, so landowners know, because that's another thing to consider. And I don't know how large these projects have been. If there's a large amount of money, the board can also decide whether or not to allow waivers. You landowners need to know that whatever assessment you receive for each 40 acres, you may pay it all in the fall, half in the fall and half in the spring, exactly like real estate taxes, or the board at its discretion can allow you to pay in not less than 10 nor more than 20-year installments, equal annual installments. So we might do that today so the landowners know more of what they are going to expect.
Okay, that sounds good, Jim. Thanks for the explanation on that.
Well, I'm going to be quiet because I'm tired of the sound of my voice.
All right.
Anybody else?
Is there anybody else from the public that has any questions on the annexation portion of this meeting?
Yeah, no. Move on.
Okay, I'm gonna take that as a no. And we need to move on to the right of way, John, is that correct?
Well, so I have an option here. We've got, Jackie said that we're doing all of our annexation today, whether it's DD2 in its districts or 38 or DD3. Do we want to keep it on DD2 and do the right of way and come back and do the other two? Those will be fairly simple, or we can knock out the other two annexation now and just be done with them. It won't take long, but we can ask some questions if anybody has them.
Okay, that's
Still do
annexation.
Whatever works.
Yeah, that's fine, John. Let's do the annexation.
But we'll finish up the annexation on the other two, and then we can be done with that topic for now. Okay, this is the next district. This is DD 38. This lies outside of the DD2 area. Here's the casino. It's up around Silver Lake here on the southwest corner of the lake.
Wondering about. We're right in the middle.
This is primarily a tile district, or exclusively a tile district, shown here in red. Again, same process we had before. The orange boundary represents surface and or tile drainage shedding to one of these red lines. The green boundary is the area assessed. Overall, fairly good. There's a couple corners that need to be annexed to clean this up here. Total annexation area of 36 acres. This, you might notice some gaps here in these red lines. That'll be something we'll talk about here in the reclass briefly, but there is a CREP wetland constructed here, which threw a little wrench in it as far as our reclassification. This one's kind of a standalone district. Are there any questions on DD 38 annexation at this time?
I think so.
I did mute people again, so if you want to announce.
If anybody has any questions on the annexation of DD 38, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and speak if you'd like.
Yes, one more time.
Okay, I'll take that as a no at this
Yeah.
time. And then finally, we have DD8, or excuse me, DD3, lateral 8. This is a district that lays down on Rice Lake. Lies over here to the east side of Rice Lake.
Okay.
Oops, sorry, you don't have that map there.
Yeah, we did.
Lies here to the east of Rice Lake, drains into the east end of the ditch here,
Okay.
or east end of the lake. This one was interesting. Deidre did quite a bit of digging for assessment schedules. From what we could find, there is no assessment schedule for this area. It's not included on the main, not included on any of the other lateral schedules. Jim might have some additional notes on this, I guess, but from what we can tell, this area is not in DD3, but has a lateral of DD3. And so we're recommending annexation of the full watershed just to clean it up and get a separate schedule to maintain this facility.
So that'll have its own separate schedule.
Yes.
I mean, that'll be its own district. Or lateral.
It'd be its own lateral within DD3.
So what district is it in? DD3? Does all water in DD3 drain through that lateral?
No, DD3, Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong. DD3 actually all drains here to the south out of Rice Lake. I think there's actually some facilities that were under
There's actually
that
a
lake.
facility in Rice Lake, isn't there?
I believe so, yeah. And that was filled up by the DNR years ago. DD3, Jackie, it's a joint district with Winnebago, the overall district.
Yes.
Yep. So we're just looking at this one lateral here in Worth County.
So then going forward, any work done on the main farther down would get assessed to the lateral up there then, is that correct? Because I don't think it has been in the past.
This is just a lateral
Right.
schedule.
I don't think.
What I understand, it is not on the main. And as we're talking, I'm thinking.
Correct, but the main does go through Rice Lake. So actually the main probably is about where that lateral starts, or starts and stops, however you want to
Yeah,
look at it.
somewhere in this area here.
Just curious, it's not a huge deal, it just was.
And you just made me think of something else. Should Winnebago County have been involved in this, or not necessarily, since it's all in Worth County?
Well,
That's why I'm questioning whether we would get
Let-
bills in the future going, which is fine, we probably should.
let me answer that. When you have a joint drainage district, there's a brand new board created, which is a combination of Winnebago's board and Worth's board. I can't remember if Winnebago has a 3 or 5 person board. I
Great,
think 3. So it's 2 3-member boards that become a new board that is a 6-member board. Everybody having equal votes since the boards are balanced between the 2 counties. So whenever a district decision is made, it should include that board as well. What happens is when you add a lateral, the lateral decisions only impact just the lateral. Since the lateral is in Worth County, it's probably natural to think of it, we don't need to include Winnebago. But I believe you do, and it's easy to include them. Just tell them when you continue the hearing, tell them when it is, and they can attend telephonically or virtually, or go fishing at Rice Lake and come to Worth County. But Winnebago should be included. just to make the decisions on the annexation, and you're going to change the classification because you're coming to a new classification. Now, Worth County will end up doing all the work. There's a phrase that the auditors use back and forth, and they will call Worth County the control county because all the land and all the landowners are in Worth County. But that phrase used for control county does not impact or do anything with respect to the legal entity of the joint drainage district. That's a wordy explanation, but no reason to have any challenge. We know how to do it right. We can do it right.
That's my question. I guess probably where I was going with this, John, I don't know if you saw this when you looked into this. Is there a common outlet with that lateral and DD, the district that goes through Rice Lake, DD2, 3?
D3, no.
Just curious, because I think we just basically it dumps into Rice Lake, and I mean, like I say, that.
Yeah, there would not be a common outlet because it is the same district.
So should there? It wouldn't have to. It's the same district as what you're, okay, I got you.
You wouldn't have to do a common outlet. It would just have to be classified into the main.
Gotcha. Okay, I just kind of concerned.
Which can be done fairly simply once it's annexed. Maybe Jim can explain that a little bit, but we'd essentially appoint a commissioner from each county, and we just do a comparative classification, match up other parcels similarly situated on the main tile schedule or main ditch schedule, and try to give them a fair assessment based on what everybody else is paying.
Yeah, once you annex, Jim Hudson again, once you annex, this area will have two schedules. One for just itself as a lateral, and the other they'll be put on the main schedule.
Gotcha.
The theory being that every parcel in the district uses the main and gets assessed for the main.
Correct.
But only the landowners that are in this area that's on your map on the screen use that lateral. Nobody else in the district does, so they don't pay for that because they don't use it or need it or want it.
And the percentage on our side wouldn't change, correct?
No, I mean, it's still going to be the same as it is unless you reach into Winnebago County and grab some land out of Winnebago County. Some more for this lateral.
Good enough.
Okay.
But yes, I guess when we reschedule, it'd be good to get Winnebago on the line for this one.
Oh, we're losing you, John.
John, we kind of lost you there.
Oh,
We
sorry.
lost you there.
So when we do the continuance, it'd be good to get Winnebago lined up to be at that meeting telephonically. Am I still breaking up?
Nope.
You're good.
Okay. That they can be part of those two decisions, the reclass and the annexation portion. So that does it for our annexation reports. Any other questions on any of them?
Is there any questions from the public on any of the annexation reports? If there is, feel free to unmute. If you're on the phone, *6. Unmute yourself and you can go ahead and address us with any questions. I'm not hearing any, so I guess we can move on.
All right. Jim already discussed right of way. I'll turn it over to Jacob at this point to just explain what we're doing with right of way in DD2 and DD15.
Yep. Yeah, I'm Jacob Hagan with Bolton and Mink. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well. Show a map of the DD2. Just a second. Can you guys see the map? It's the same map that John had up earlier. show the DD2 watershed. So when we were looking at the reclass, we found that the existing right-of-way along the open ditch varied in places of its total width, and in some places it didn't even exist. So we went through and we established a 100-foot width of right-of-way in which the district will be charged that it contains the open ditch and also some room for the spoil banks to allow for maintenance along the sides of the open ditch. We did this for the entire length of the DD2 open ditch. That's the red line, also branch 1, and then the DD63 outlet ditch were also included in that 100-foot. It also included, can you guys see my little hand on the screen?
Yes.
Yep.
So it also included the lateral H open ditch, which is this blue line right here.
Okay.
And we also did that at 100-foot right-of-way width as well. I think it's important to note that the right-of-way of the drainage district is not on the tax rolls, and the landowner does still receive the beneficial use of the spoil banks. So that land within the ditch is within the ditch, but then the land right beside the ditch that we also have included in the right-of-way, the farmer can continue to farm it. He can continue to put it in CRP for buffer strips. He still has the use of that area. But when we need to go in and do maintenance, we can use that area and we don't have to pay him crop damages for it.
Hey, Jacob?
Yep.
We have a question from Sue Loken.
Okay.
When land is annexed into this watershed district, is it removed from another district?
So that would be the annexation question. And no, we did not remove any land from schedules that were bordering DD2. So if your farm, say your farm's right here, this piece here, and it's in a different watershed, we did not look at removing land from the watershed, from the drainage district that is right there. It is possible to be in more than one district. So that could be a situation she's in where you have a 40-acre parcel, let's say this one here, where it's about 25 acres are in DD2 and the remaining land is in another drainage district. That is also a possibility. But as for this one, we did not, let's say she was in, if you had the whole 40 in your other parcel or in the other drainage district, and we annexed in and assessed 30 acres in this district, we did not remove that land. Where's her land located? Maybe we'd have a better idea of which.
I think it would be near Jonquil.
What section?
And then the Jensen open ditch. Or
Yeah, it'd be probably section 9 down there.
In this area?
Up. It'd be section 27, 28.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, right here.
Yes.
Okay, so it's this little parcel right where my hand is.
Yeah, you want to zoom in there, Jacob? And
so it's that small parcel, probably 1 acre parcel, or 1 acre or 2 acres we've annexed in. I guess the board or Jackie, do you guys know what district is right north of DD2 right here? And if she's included on that watershed?
Section 31 west of I-35 is what she's talking about.
Oh,
I unmuted Jim Hudson.
Yes, you are.
Just quickly, let me help Jacob out. If there's a parcel of land that is in 2 districts, we only assess that area that's in each district for that district. The classification commission doesn't have any authority for the neighboring district now. But in the future, before there'd be an assessment in the next door district, would they, if they have a project and they reclassify, then that classification schedule should be corrected. So we don't double assess the same parcel of land. Does that
I
make
believe she's
sense?
talking about DD 64, Jim, which is inside of DD 2.
But she might be in DD 6.
But if she pays another assessment for the same acre of land to two different districts, we don't do it that way. We'll relieve her of a double assessment. We can't take her out of the district and we leave her in the district, but we just won't assess.
Jacob, pull up the DD 64 report.
So she's in DD2 and in DD 64, which
So she's actually being assessed for different benefits between the two districts. She's being assessed for benefits in DD2 for the open ditch. And if she's being annexed into DD 64, it's for benefits received from a separate tile system. So they're not, sorry, go ahead.
So she said, thanks, Jim. That answered her question.
And John's got it further clarified.
Yep.
I think we got that one answered, guys.
There, John and Jacob, your right-of-way acquisition, you're just using what we call the normal procedure under 468.24.
Yes.
yes.
There's an alternate procedure, but I didn't get together with you guys on it. But this isn't going to be that cumbersome anyway, because you're not talking about very much land, I don't think.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jacob.
So, yep, we proposed a 100-foot right-of-way on DD2. Pull up the report here. If you notice, we have the recommended compensation here on the far right side. We recommended $400 an acre for land that was already a ditch within the ditch. So this is land that was already underwater. We recommended $400 an acre or to buy the right of way on that. The land outside of that ditch that is still cropland, we recommended $800 an acre as the recommended compensation for the right of way. And like we said before, the farmer would still be able to farm that land. It would just be when we need to do maintenance, we're able to drive alongside the ditch and knock down crops when we need to for that.
This is
Typically,
Jim
these-
Hudson. I want to interrupt you again, Jacob.
Yep.
I want to add too, so the landowners and the board understand. Jacob has already said that those parcels would be removed from the tax rolls, and they get the beneficial use. That's at the board's discretion, but we always let them do it. The third thing, which is important, is all the territory that's within the new permanent easement for right-of-way does not pay a drainage assessment. So no taxes, no drainage assessment, and you get to use it. In my parlance, that's called a win-win-win for the landowner. So that's all I had to add, Jacob.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Sorry.
And then, so I'll just scroll down here. You can see for most individual parcels, it's not a lot of acres being annexed or being having right away taken. But in total, it comes out to 75.1 acres of total right of way along the DD2 open ditch, which comes out to a recommended compensation of $52,840, in which the drainage district would purchase the right of way for that dollar figure. Is there any questions on the DD2 right away? I'll move on to 15 was the same process. I'll move on if there's isn't any.
We'll ask the public now if there is any questions on the right of way for DD2. Feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and speak to us.
Can type in the chat too.
Yeah, or if it's easier, if you're on a computer, to type in the chat. That seems to go pretty good as well. Not hearing anything. I think we can go ahead and move on.
We have one chat.
Sorry, we did get a chat to come through.
From Sue, how was the land value assessed?
How was the land value assessed? Is that what the question was?
That was the question.
It's not.
How we came up with the dollar figures? So what we kind of use as a benchmark is we assume it's about 10% of the value of that land. That's how I've described it. We've also gone with the idea that that land probably rents for around $250 an acre. And during a lifetime, we usually clean out a ditch every 30 to 40 years. So you clean out a ditch this year for $250, you would have paid $250 to take that, to use that land. Another 30, 40 years, you would have paid $250, or, well, the rent of whatever it is, 40 years from now. And so, you know, typically in a lifetime, that's maybe 2 to 3 times a person would have maintenance on that ditch, which comes out to about $800 an acre. That's how we came up to the cropland values. The actual ditch creek land, the $400 an acre, that was more of just we kind of tried to go with the 10% value. 10% of the land, that land is worth less than cropland is. It is more difficult to put a price on how much is a creek worth or a ditch worth from a real estate standpoint. But we figured it's probably worth half the value of the cropland beside it. That's how we came up with the $400 and $800 an acre.
Okay.
That answer Sue's question, or?
Assuming so. We'll see if we hear anything back from her.
Okay.
Here in a minute.
Yes.
Yes, that does answer the question, Jacob. Thank you.
Yep. All right, thanks.
I'll try one last time. Anybody else on the right of way of DD2? If not, I think we'll go ahead and move on, Jacob.
All right, so I've got the map for DD15 pulled up. DD15 includes the open ditch John spoke about earlier. That was a private facility. Now we're recommending that it be taken over as a district facility. The blue line right here. We recommended a 100-foot right-of-way on that ditch as well to allow for the ditch plus the spoil banks to allow us to drive over for maintenance. In total, that came out to 10 acres of right-of-way being recommended at $9,600 for the total purchase price. Is there any questions about DD15? It was the same process as DD2. Same dollar figures, the $400 and the $800.
Okay, does the public have any questions on DD15 right away? You can go ahead and either send us a chat or unmute yourself, please. Okay, not hearing anything. If something does come up, we'll go back to it, but otherwise we can continue, Jacob.
All right, well, that concludes for DD2 and DD15. Right away, I will Stop
Yeah.
sharing my screen. There we go.
All right, perfect. So is that it, John? Is that it for the right of way then?
Yep, that was it for right of way. There is a ditch on lateral 8 in DD3, but that ditch is fully on DNR property. The damages, if we ever do damages, are going to be minimal, if anything. So we did not recommend right of way there. They're just the existing that already was there. Yeah, that would be it for annexation and right of way. So I guess my thought on reclassification, again, if we're considering continuance of this hearing, we won't go over in detail every district. We'll mainly go over the factors that we used and how they applied, and then point everybody to the maps that are on the Worth County website now that show those dollars spread across the district, so you can kind of see how your benefits are derived.
Okay, so if we're gonna possibly continue the reclass, do we want to approve the first two portions and then move to reclass?
I
Or do we
didn't
wanna
think you wanted to
move
approve
everything?
anything.
Okay, we
No,
want to continue everything then.
Unfortunately,
Is the
because
plan,
we
okay.
didn't have that many participants.
Yeah. And we'll point out the next time the annexation and the right of way, we probably won't need to discuss much. Just pull the map up real quick and just remind everybody, but we likely won't spend an hour and a half like we did here.
Okay.
Go over those pieces again.
So, okay, yeah, let's move on with a little bit on the reclass, I guess, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Jacob, do you have those factor maps pulled up?
Yes, I do.
You want to go ahead and share those, and I guess I can talk about those. We'll start with DD2.
Everyone can see it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Up there now?
There we go.
Here we got it.
Actually, Jacob, can you pull up, do you have any of the underlying factor maps, the wetness and the procs and the use for these? So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing your screen. I'll just talk for a little bit here, Jacob. So what we use for a process is generally accepted across the state. There are a few different methods of doing reclassification, but the one that a lot of the engineers that we've seen do are based on primarily 3 different factors. How wet is your soil relative to everybody else? How close are you to that ditch or tile that we are classifying? And how much of that facility are you using? So I think wetness is fairly self-explanatory. Jake will pull up a map here eventually that we can just kind of show how it falls in this district. We'll come back to that one. Proximity is essentially based on how close you are to the ditch. So if you are somebody right on the channel or right on that tile, it passes right through your farm, you have very easy access to that facility. You don't need to build anything else to get water from your land to that ditch or tile. Somebody, here we got the map of DD2 pulled up. Somebody that's up, oh, here we go. Go up to the top there, Jacob.
Yep. You're just talking about, here's the proximity map.
Proximity, yep. So you can see there the red band through the center, that's essentially right on the ditch. Those lands are paying more than the lands in dark green out at the edges. Those lands in dark green have to provide some other form of drainage to get to that main. So their benefit from that main is less because they're farther away, lower proximity. If we go down to use factor, concept is how much of that ditch are you using? Somebody at the east there in dark green, they're only using right there about a half mile. You know, as you move up, using a mile or 2 miles. Lands cleared to the far west in sections 25, 30, 31, they've got seven miles to get out. They needed all of that ditch built to get them an outlet. They just did not have alternate means of drainage. They relied on a ditch being built to their land. So their assessments are going to be higher than the lands to the east. Again, wetness factor based on how wet is your soil compared to everybody else. The areas in dark red here tend to be pothole soils, low valley soils that are wet, need drainage to be at all productive. The lands in dark green, those are your hilltop soils. They generally would have some natural surface drainage. They don't need a lot of drainage input to make them farmable. There may be additional drainage put in to make them more productive, but the need for drainage is less for those lands. So we take all those, apply them together to come up with our general spread. What are your benefits from each of those three different factors? And we come up with a map that looks something like this. Generally towards the east end of this map, there's more green. Generally to the west end or the left, there's more red. Those lands tend to have more need for drainage, more benefit received from the ditch than the lands to the east. And so the assessments are going to be higher on a per acre basis for lands to the west or the upstream than they are to the downstream. They're going to be higher for lands right on the ditch than lands that are off the ditch by a mile or more. We do this for all of the facilities within that given schedule. So this one here shows the blue line for DD2, including lateral ditch and the DD63 outlet ditch there in the center. All those facilities we paid for on this one schedule, any repairs to those facilities. We would do that across the several different districts within DD2. The process is generally the same. The one caveat to that, one additional factor applied to DD2 and 54 specifically, and we had this brief discussion earlier with the new development. For the most part, these watersheds are fairly simple. They're all ag land. They roughly have the same runoff coefficients. We don't consider specific land use for agricultural purposes because those lands, they can change management practices on a yearly basis if the landowner chose. You know, you could have it in CRP one year and your runoff is very low. The next year you may disc it to death and its runoff is significantly higher. You know, it's going to vary based on what that is on an annual basis. The one caveat to that is permanent development, primarily commercial development. So along the interstate is the casino development area, a lot of hard surface, a lot of roads that are rated to remove that water. The assessments for those should be higher because they're going to shed a relatively higher amount of water than ag land, and they are designed to get that water off in a reasonably quick fashion. We did initially have a high factor on all of the casino property, but after reviewing it, there is a detention pond that does slow that water back down to pre-development rates. And so portions of the casino property have been treated as ag land for that purpose. But the areas that do not go to that pond do receive a higher assessment because they do shed that water more quickly and are designed to get rid of that water to the fastest extent possible. That's really the only area in any of these districts that's had a factor like that, other than county roads, which normally get an adjustment for the same reason: hard surface, ditches graded to remove that water. Otherwise, we stuck with primarily those three original factors: use, how much of it are you using relative to other landowners; proximity, how close are you relative to other landowners to that facility; and wetness, how much do you need drainage relative to your neighbors. Again, I guess I'll leave this to the board. Do we want to flip through each map and just look at them, or do you want to just again, point everybody to the website. They can get copies of it. It'll be easier to go over that, answer specific questions in person, meeting later.
Yeah, let's give them the opportunity to look through that stuff on the website or whatever, and that's the reason for the continuance, I think, is so we can go over this in person, to get a little more, everybody's get a little better understanding of what's going on there, so. So, is that it for that, John, for now?
I think that's it for now. Like I said, we can go through all those maps, but I think that's just going to be overload for everybody. So please look for those maps on the website. If you need help or have questions, feel free to call Jacob or I. We'll do our best to answer your questions before the meeting. Take a look at how we've laid it out, and please ask questions.
Okay.
So we look, John, we're gonna, to open back up to the public, our time frame will be better off in July, do you think? We could have a group meeting of more than 10?
Maybe.
We don't know. I mean, I realize we don't know.
Yeah.
How far do we push it out? Should we try for July? And if we have to push it out, we push it out again?
Yeah, I would think if anything, July would be a time when we would be open back up. You know, they talk about it coming back in the winter again. So I don't know. July might be the best option, and we'll see where we go from there.
Well, I'm looking at the calendar. We could either go with the 14th to 21st.
Should be free any of those.
But,
Going on Monday.
Yeah, normally we do Monday.
We're thinking of Monday, either like
Okay.
the 13th or the 20th, maybe, John.
Yeah, either of those would work for me.
We'll do it after a board meeting and try to set it up for around that 10 o'clock, 10:30 time again.
Okay.
10:30.
10:30.
10:30. Pick it 13th or 20th?
13th.
Mr. Chair, I move we continue the hearing on DD2 and the laterals to July 13th at 10:30.
All
Oh.
DD2, DD15, DD16, DD44, DD54, DD64, DD38, and DD3 lateral 8.
Okay. I have a motion from Abrams
I'll second.
and a second from Smaby to continue the hearing on the above drainage districts until July 13th, 10:30 a.m. The site will be determined as soon as we can, pending all this COVID stuff, so. Any other discussion, guys? I'll take a roll call vote. Abrams?
Aye.
Maybe?
Aye.
Stone? Aye. Okay, we will continue this meeting till then.
Yeah, John.
Jim's got a comment.
Does the board want to?
Speak up, Jim.
Keep your microphone up.
How's that?
There you go.
Sorry. Who's that guy that's hard of hearing with the gray hair? Everybody in the room, huh? Does the board want to consider the interest rate for the project so the landowners know? And also whether or not to do waivers? None of these projects are very big, are they?
No.
There's no projects.
There's no project.
This
There's
is
no
just-
projects right now, Jim.
On this one.
On
It's
this
just
one.
reclassification,
Just-
annexation, and right of way.
Well, the
Well,
biggest number I
me too.
saw was 100,000.
Yeah, and those are placeholder numbers. Those we did not clarify that. Those numbers are just representative. They are not the assessed amounts for this project. It'll be much
Have you-
lower than that.
Have you done projects, repairs and or improvements in these districts?
Yes.
Little ones.
Little
probably.
ones, beaver dams, things like that.
Nothing.
Might be a project come up later after we get done with all the annexations, like a year from now,
Yep.
but not right now.
really no reason to figure out an interest rate or waivers, is there?
No, sir.
Cause even that 50 whatever for right of way for DD2 spread over all of DD2 won't amount to that much, will it, John?
No,
Okay,
no.
well, I just didn't want you to go
Snicker.
past it. I'll get off that rant then.
That's
Good.
fine.
Thanks for keeping us in check.
Yeah, one question. So we didn't set a location. Will there be a postcard or something sent out then to the landowners just to state?
Gonna have
So there won't be a new notice, but it will be just a postcard stating the time and place.
Yes, we will have to do that once we kind of see where this stuff goes and can find a location suitable to do that. Okay, is there anything else we need to do today, or were you good until July 13th?
I believe we're good till July 13th on these districts.
And John, can you hold on, please?
Yeah.
So we can talk about something else. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, if that's it then, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Motion a second. All in favor, aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Motion will carry. The meeting is adjourned until, continued until July 13th. Thank you.
Recording off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.